Hey everybody, so this is the final result for a neon portrait effect. I'm going to show you how to do that. If you're looking at the layers panel, there's not a whole lot involved. It's fairly simple to accomplish, and I will show you how to do that as easy as possible. This took me about 10 minutes, so it should be fairly easy for you to do as well. So the first step for you guys is to open your new document. You're going to do File New, and you're going to do 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 8.5. It doesn't really matter. Depends on where you have the negative space. You want to have some negative space around your subject, and yes, it should be a portrait. Your light painting pictures work really well for this because you already have some effect. So maybe you want to add to one. You can also do this with a normal portrait too, just to test it out. But you should have some type of dark background. 150 resolution is also good, and then you'll hit create. You're going to drag and drop your file over into Photoshop. So any picture that you have, you can crop it just like as is. Remember, you can generative expand. So if I want to have more picture to the side, you can just tell it to do generative expand for you by hitting the button down below. So the first step of what I'm going to do is I'm going to check my settings. So the first thing that we're going to do is go to our paintbrush, and we're going to check the settings at the top. So what I would do is I would have your brush be fairly small, and the hardness should be set to 100%. So a hard round, and so the hardness for the edge, and then the size, you're going to want it to be somewhere around 10 to 15 at tops, because we're going to be using that in just a moment. Make sure your opacity is also at 100. Okay, so the next step is we're going to set a new layer. So down at the bottom corner, you have a new layer. We're going to use what's called the pen tool. There are different types of pen tools, so just make sure you have the normal pen tool selected, and you're going to draw your shape. I like rectangles because rules of thirds work really well, and you want to think about where you want to place your light. So I'm going to have my light coming right behind his neck here where the sombrero's at. I'm going to have it kind of come through, and I want it to overlap into his arm, just like so. And I just click on the dots, okay? And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to right click, and it's going to say stroke path, and we want it to copy the last settings that we set up for our brush. So my brush is now white because I have my white paint. It is a 10-point line, and it is a straight line altogether there, okay? So once I do that, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select at the very bottom the effects panel, and I'm going to do a outer glow. And I already have some settings set up, so I'm gonna kind of make it more, I'm gonna make my opacity, but I'm gonna have my blur be really sharp right here on the end. You can play with different ones if you want it to be precise versus softer. It doesn't matter to you, but you do want it to be fairly sharp on the edge because neon lights actually have a really bright light coming from them. Okay, so that's our first step. So then we'll hit OK. And then we're going to duplicate this layer. So I like to title these so I know which one is what. So that's neon 1. I'm going to duplicate this layer by hitting Command J. Okay, and then I'll type this one in as neon 2. What I'm going to do though is then change the outer glow on this one, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to now change the size of my glow, and then I can also change what I want if I want it to be a different type of blur or blend. So you could try out different ones to see what you think is going to work the best. I do like screen probably the most, and I might just make this one like a little bit more opaque, just so you have a hard edge and then like a bigger blur. Okay. The next step, I'm going to go back to my photo of my person, and I'm going to hit select subject. Remember, there's a lot of different ways of selecting your subject. The selection tools are up here, object selection. You also have quick selection, which I'm going to use because it didn't grab everything that I need. So I'm going to go to the very top menu, hit the plus button, and that is what allows me to then go in and add what it missed. I don't need all of this sombrero here. So what I'm going to do is just select the shoulder and the body parts that I think that I need to get cut out. Okay, just like so. And then, oops, it messed up. So Command Z steps backwards. So just remember that. And you can minus from a selection too. So just keep that in mind. Okay. All right. Once I have that, Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this character out. So I'm going to do Command J again. Notice on my layers panel, I have his cutout. So I'm going to bring that back to the top, and I'm going to then add a mask, the Japan flag at the bottom, and I'm going to paint away where I want it to stay. So I want this neon light to come back in front of his body, so I'm going to paint it away on this mask. If you remember, black takes away, white brings back. So I'm going to go to my paintbrush. I'm going to go to my settings by right-clicking, or at the menu at the top. I'll make the hardness 0 this time, and I'll bring my brush back up bigger so that I can bring back this neon light effect. And what I want for mine is I was going to have his it come from behind his arm. So he's almost like, it's like interlapping in between. So I'm going to go back, change the hardness of this a little bit. And so I need to go and paint this part away of the arm, right? Because I don't want that to be shown. Okay, so I'm doing a hard edge of that arm, like so. And then I'm almost done. The last step is to then colorize the entire photo. You can do something similar like this and just like have this be in black and white and then the color, and then you can paint some color by using your paintbrush. Like I could go in with my paintbrush and I could manually kind of like paint in some color. When I do that and I changed my filter, so like I could go in and like play with some filters down below, see what I think might look good. Like you can do that by hand if you'd like, if you want only certain parts to be in color. But what I'm gonna do is specifically add in a special effect filter, and I'm gonna go to, and I'm gonna do hue saturation, and I'm gonna pick the button that says colorize. When I do that, it's gonna allow me to change whatever I want into whatever color. So like I could change the color and do some really cool effects this way. Notice it selected my triangle. On my hue right here, it has the mask selected. I don't want that to be there, so I can actually just delete my mask and it'll make the whole photo the same color that I have. So I get to choose whatever color I want. Now I could go and add a blank mask and paint away what I don't want. So like maybe I don't want it to be super harsh, and I'll just paint away a little bit on like the hat so it's not as vibrant. Right? So like you could choose to bring certain parts back, up to you. But ultimately, that is the only thing you need to do. So then you would go to File, Export as a PNG, and then turn it in from there.